In this game, Mikhail Tal unleashes the Bone Cloud attack, sacrificing both of his queens 4 times, which seems almost impossible for a human to achieve. Let's dive into the game. Tal is playing white against Kirjatsky, who is playing black. We start with the Ruy Lopez opening. So far, so good. These are all well-known opening moves, with both sides developing their pieces. Now black transitions into the Marshall counterattack. After white captures with the pawn, black strikes back with the move pawn to e4. A very interesting move that targets white's knight. This sets the stage for some intense tactical battles ahead. After the exchange, many players might be tempted to capture the pawn, but Tal, true to his style, prioritizes piece activity over material. Instead of taking the pawn, he pushes his pawn to d4, signaling that he values quick development more than a mere pawn. Black responds with bishop to d6, following a similar idea, not capturing the pawn either. White then plays bishop to g5, with both players focusing on mobilizing their pieces. In a bold move, black strikes first with bishop takes h2, a temporary sacrifice meant to disrupt white's position. White's knight then moves to g4, putting pressure on the king, and black manages to recover the bishop on the following move. While it initially seems like black has gained some ground, white decides to seize the pawn on f3, solidifying the position. Black then plays bishop to f5, but Tal responds with a clever move, knight to d2, adding a bit of humor to the position while continuing his strategic play. It appeared that the queen controlled the square, but if black proceeds with that move, it would allow white to capture the bishop on f5. As a result, white could still play knight to d2, continuing with development. Black then plays ha5, trying to expand on the king side. In response, Tal plays knight to a4, attacking the queen, and after the exchange, white's rooks become active. Black responds with king to h7, likely attempting to unpin the pawn and allow it to advance, potentially targeting the rook while maintaining the attack. Tal plays bishop to c2, making it clear that he is watching black's every move. The black king then retreats to safety, and after white plays rook to a1, fully mobilizing his pieces, the real action begins. Black pushes with f5, signaling an all-out attack on the king side. Tal, ever the tactician, responds with rook to a7, targeting the pawn. Black proceeds with f4, dismissing the pawn threat and focusing on a kingside checkmate. Meanwhile, Tal remains unfazed, continuing his own plan and pushing the pawn to d5. Tal has these strong pawns and aims to push them forward, hoping to create a passed pawn or potentially capture black's pawns to create one that way. White plays queen to h4, threatening queen to h2, putting black in a tough spot. A move like queen to h3 would lose a pawn, so what does white do instead? Tal, unfazed, decides he doesn't care and plays pawn to d6, continuing with his plan to push for a passed pawn. Black responds with queen to h2, and white's king retreats to f1. It turns out that black could have delivered a check, but didn't, as the king simply runs away, rendering the check ineffective. Instead, black plays queen to h4, a more subtle and dangerous move. Now black wants to bring the knight to h2, aiming for a kingside attack with both the knight and queen. It seems pretty difficult for white to get out of this situation because moving the queen away isn't an option. If you try to move it somewhere, it fails to queen to c6, which would lead to checkmate. A lot of players might consider moving the king back to g1, and after queen to h2, the position would repeat, resulting in a draw. However, this is when Mikhail Tal uses the bold cloud attack. He played king to e2, which seems completely crazy since the king is marching to the center of the board during the middle of the game, with all the pieces attacking each other, and the king is exposed. But, in the end, this move solves the problem, at least preventing knight to h2. Here, black played rook to de8, which is a rather evil move. But what if black simply captured the pawn on d6? This would not only capture the pawn, but also threaten queen takes e7, which is a check to the king. It turns out that Tal would likely continue marching his king to d1. After knight to f2, the king hides on c1, marking a remarkable march across the board right in the middle of the game, under attack from black's pieces. Although this didn't happen in the game, it would have been quite spectacular. In the actual game, black found a creative move with rook to d8, aiming to cut off the king from the d-file. The pawn can't move, as it would lose the rook on a7. The position looks critical for white, with rook takes d6 looming, the queen still targeting key squares, and white's position under heavy pressure. This is where Mikhail Tal demonstrates his brilliance. He plays rook to h1, sacrificing the rook, something Levi Rosman might call a rook sacrifice for seemingly no reason. Black just takes it, and that's it. So what's the point? I know you're not impressed because many of you enjoy giving up a rook for no reason. But the point here is that Tal is simply trying to deflect the queen from its square and gain a tempo for his attack. There's no immediate checkmate, he just wants to accelerate the attack. Tal then plays queen to e4, threatening queen to h7 checkmate. Black responds with knight to f6 to counter the queen and the threat. The queen then moves to g6, threatening queen takes g7. Black plays rook to e8, and it seems like Black has fully covered their position and is still up a rook. But Tal continues attacking as if nothing happened, playing c7, attacking the rook. The rook moves away, and here comes the first queen sacrifice. Queen is sacrificed on c8. You might still not be impressed and say, hey, that was just a pawn, so it's technically a queen sacrifice, but not really. For those of you thinking that, the next sacrifice is the real deal. This time, it's an actual queen sacrifice, and it's brutal. If the pawn takes, there's a neat checkmate, rook to h7, and with the support of the bishop, it's checkmate. I bet you don't see a checkmate like that often. Black couldn't take the queen and played f3, trying to mix things up. White recaptured, and Black responded with rook to e8. By the way, what's also crazy about this game is that Tal played it in a simultaneous exhibition simo, facing multiple opponents at once. It's remarkable that he could find such brilliant moves, and it's equally impressive that his opponent is playing quite well. After rook to e8, Black wants to trade off rooks and slow down or eliminate White's attack. White responds with bishop to e4. To solidify everything, White closes the e-file and defends the pawns. Black trades rooks and plays queen to c1, and it looks like White's attack is over. Now Black is ready to start creating threats against White's king. But Mikhail Tal plays another brilliant move to stabilize his position, queen to e5. This move threatens the h5 pawn while also securing White's position. Black responds with queen takes b2, checking the king. White plays king to f1, and after queen to c1, the king moves back to g2. Interestingly, at one point, the king tried to run to the queen side but then changed its mind, realizing it was too risky, and returned to the king side. Now, the checks are over and Black has to defend. Black plays queen to h6, fully surrounding White's king with pieces. But White isn't done yet. Tal pushes a pawn on the opposite side of the board, forcing Black to shift focus. Black plays rook to f8, and here comes yet another queen sacrifice. Queen to f5, giving up the queen for the first time in this game. And what's the point? Well, if the rook moves, which didn't happen in the game, White would instantly promote the other pawn with check. On the next move, White would win the rook, leaving him with an extra bishop and a completely winning position. This didn't happen, but it's remarkable how often you can sacrifice a queen in a single game. In the actual game, Black declined the queen sacrifice and played pawn to g6, counterattacking the queen while also defending the rook on f8, but Tal was determined to give up his queen. This time, he finally does it with queen takes f8, sacrificing his queen for the fourth time in this game. After queen takes f8, White plays bishop to b7, and there's no way for Black to stop the pawn from promoting next move. This would leave White with an extra bishop in the endgame, so Black resigned. Truly one of the best games I've ever seen. If you enjoyed this incredible game and Tal's brilliant sacrifices, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more exciting chess content. Let me know in the comments what you think was the most mind-blowing move. Thanks for watching.